Hey everybody!
Sorry, we're still gearing up here. Slow, but we get there.
Hopefully this video again will go up. We still haven't been able to figure out where the Horatio video went.
Yeah, for those of you that are just
cyberspace,
just joining us and tried to watch the interview that we did with Horatio, was absolutely fantastic.
Awesome.
Yesterday we went live 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for an hour and a half, and then the video only saved 8 seconds. I have an email out to YouTube, and they have responded twice, not just the initial email, but they've said they've sent it to the hierarchy, whatever, I don't know who's going to figure it out. Hopefully they'll find it, because I can see it in my videos. I can see that it did do the hour and a half. I'm really, really bummed. So I want you guys to keep checking back on that video, because it was one of the best, and it was our first live interview, so it was really, really fun. So for today, we have a lot of news that we need to cover. It is September 4th, 2017. I think the other day I said it was the 9th, and it was the 1st, I think. Somebody called me out on that, and they were like, dude, I thought I missed a week. Sorry. I don't know how that happened. Maybe I was thinking 9 is the month, September. So before we do anything, I want to start out with, because I always forget, we actually have a P.O. box now. We had a UPS box, and we are getting rid of that altogether, and now we have a P.O. box. So I want to give you that address. I'm going to put it in the description, but I'm also going to tell it to you now. If you're watching this, you can rewind it and go back. It's going to be Resistance Chicks, P.O. Box 107, Milford, Ohio 45150.
It's really simple.
It's very, very simple.
Way simpler than the UPS box number.
Yeah. And I think I had to have care of Michelle Svensson and all that. You literally can just put Resistance Chicks. You can put our names. We're on there as well. So I wanted to take care of that right away before we got into the news.
All right, so I want to go over some of the headlines that we're going to cover right now. I didn't know. Patriot Gallery showed me today. She's like, hey, wildfires. Now, I did know there was wildfires in Montana. I didn't know it had spread. I didn't know there's a huge heat wave going on in LA. Temperatures topping 110 degrees.
I meant to wipe the thing,
and
I didn't, and it's a little fuzzy.
It's
sorry.
a little fuzzy. Sorry guys.
Here it comes. I'm like the mom. I'm like the mommy.
How?
It's on the list of things to do before we go live, and I forgot. She runs with this thing in her pocket listening to news stories.
In my hand.
Ew. Yeah, so I'm literally wiping Leah's sweat off of you guys. That's gross to think about. Now I gotta get the camera on.
Sweat.
It's pretty much sweat.
All right.
Or gum.
Okay. So, yeah, we have a friend of ours who posted on Facebook today and said that she's got relatives that are being evacuated from Montana. A chalet in Glacier National Park burned down, and we just visited Glacier National Park for the first time in our lives. The most beautiful place that I've been in the United States.
I feel like you get a little bit biased when you visited places, but it does feel like Glacier National Park is the most beautiful place on the planet.
But we saw a lot of charred remnants of previous fires.
And it blows your mind as you're walking through this kind of, stone forest, essentially, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this is...
So they've evacuated everybody from Lake McDonald to the Logan Pass.
Wow.
Because of fire concerns. And so right now, this is unbelievable, you guys. Check this out. Massive fire burning in LA. They've evacuated a ton of people. So our main story here is talking about these fires. In the aftermath of Harvey, we've got a lot of natural disasters to be talking about right now. We really want to talk about what's happening right now. But then Irma's coming, possibly on Friday or Saturday.
And we're not. Is it sure that it's going to hit land?
No.
Right. It's still up in the air.
But the Florida governor's already declared a state of emergency.
Good.
Water is flying off the shelves. It looks like it's high possibility of hitting Miami.
A lot of people that live in Florida, I don't know how many, are retired people, and they have family up north. And I'm hoping that they are being proactive enough to get out now.
Right.
Whether Irma hits or not, it's a good time to go visit the grandkids. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If you can get out of Florida, just go now. If Irma doesn't hit, then you've had a nice trip.
So check this out. Largest ever LA fire ever.
Wow.
Spreads to 5,000 acres and sweeps the city.
Oh,
amid record heat. One home was burned, but no injuries have been reported. Mandatory evacuations, 600 homes in LA, Burbank, and Glendale. Firefighters continued to battle the fast-spreading fire whose growth was fueled by erratic winds and rising temperatures on Saturday. So some of these pictures are pretty intense.
Yeah.
but I think because it hit LA is when it hit the news.
Mm-hmm.
But
prior to that,
Montanans have been tweeting out,
and they're a little bit resentful of Harvey. Not that I'm sure they're praying for the Texans, but because Texas all of a sudden got all this coverage, and they're like, "Whoa, we have fires."
Yeah.
You know, that are happening.
Exactly.
Here.
We actually met a girl at the Red Pill Expo who she posted on Facebook. She was one of the first ones to let me know, you know, we've got this going on. So check this out.
I mean, people are literally driving through this wall of fire.
I think that, I mean, you can't turn around. What do you do? What
They're
do
probably
you do?
headed somewhere important. I don't know. And, you know, at this point, we have to really pray for those firefighters because it is a deadly, deadly job.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the same thing as rescuing somebody at Harvey. You know, yeah, you could die, but, I mean, the firefighters, you can die from smoke inhalation.
Right.
It's awful. It's very, very scary.
So, I'm going to play this here. This is, hundreds of firefighters battle the fire, which have been burning since Friday.
Otto says, as a Texan, the Montanans can have all of our excess water. Bring a bucket.
Isn't it a little bit odd?
It is. We have fire and water going.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty intense. Yeah. So you've got the air firefighters there. Just, wow.
No volunteers for California because everything is illegal in California. That's unfortunate. So I want to welcome all of our moderators who are here. We've got Gary, we've got Worth a Look, John Petter, and Stacy here already.
So check out, hey guys, check out this picture from Glacier. Just burning up, man.
That's awful. And like Leah said, when we were in Glacier, it's hard to imagine. You see the charred trees and you think, when has this ever happened? We don't ever hear about it. Mm-hmm. And that's just the point. We don't ever hear about it, which is why at Resistance Chicks, we want to bring it and spread light on this. Because as we always say, there are plenty of avenues for us to be giving into. And this is definitely one of those avenues that we should be giving into.
This is a Facebook post. I can't make them bigger, but these are homes burning in Montana. And people were asking why, where's CNN, where's the president? And we wanted to bring it to you guys because somebody's got to report on it.
I was watching a guy earlier today and he was reporting on it. What was really funny is that as he was reading the location of the actual picture in the background, he's like, oh my gosh, I thought I lived there. Did you see that video? Mm-hmm. He's like, I lived there.
So, in Oregon, crews helped rescue more than 100 hikers that were stranded in the mountains overnight after the wildfire closed their trail and they were trapped between two blazes. The Hood River County Sheriff's Office said Sunday afternoon that the final group of hikers left the Watam Lake area at the bottom of the trail and were headed by bus to meet their family and friends. So hopefully, I think one hiker was taken by ambulance for exhaustion and dehydration because they were stuck.
Oh, wow.
Many of the hikers had gone up the Eagle Creek Trail on Saturday to swim at the popular waterfalls and pools, but a fire broke out near the Columbian River Gorge Trail about 90 miles east of Portland. The blaze was burning on the Eagle Creek Trail, and the only other way out was longer, more difficult, and it was getting dark, so officials told them to spend the night, and so they had to spend the night, and they got him out, but, I mean, just kind of really one of those things that, you know, you don't want to meet a bear and you don't want to be caught in a wildfire.
It's true, and I want to read some of these comments because they're they bear reading here. Stacy says, sadly, this is more and more likely because man stops all the natural fires. It builds a huge amount of fuel, and it ends up worse than if they let nature take its course, which is really true. Because I think earlier Britt Baza had said that it's really bad when it happens, but it's good for a forest to have these. It's kind of like out west when they have the natural burns. It's really good to repair the pasture, things like that. And unfortunately, we have all of these cities now in an area where nature wants to cleanse itself constantly, and it doesn't have a chance to do that. And so, like Stacy said, when it does happen, it's way worse than it would have been if it was just more of a natural occurring thing.
Wildfires are raging in 8 western states. They have destroyed more than 1 million acres combined. Several of the newest fires are in California. Here's Jamie Yukas.
The hills surrounding Los Angeles have been burning for 3 days.
It looks like hell.
With flames burning dangerously close to neighborhoods and freeways. Fueled by 100-degree days and thick brush, the La Tuna fire is burning an area that has not seen a fire in 45 years. Burbank residents quickly began defending their homes. This man used a towel to beat back the fire as it came within feet of his front door. He ran at the very last minute.
The firefighters say they can defend it, but it's pretty nerve-wracking to watch.
Hillside homes closest to the flames were told to pack up and leave, while 1,000 firefighters and air power battled the blaze overnight. Evening winds pushed 50-foot flames up the canyons, creating tornadoes of smoke. Los Angeles Fire Chief Ralph Terrazza.
We saw extremely erratic weather and wind. The wind can change direction. It can go 180 miles per hour within a few minutes.
By morning, 3 homes were lost and 6,000 acres burned. Paul DiPaolo was going to watch college football, but watched the fire instead.
You can just hear that crackling, and it makes you know that it's right in your backyard.
Oh, yeah.
The western heat fueled a fire east of Portland, Oregon that stranded 140 hikers on Saturday night. Hikers were forced to overnight when the fire grew too close to a popular hiking trail. They were still waiting to be rescued on Sunday. Hillsides like the one behind me were burning just hours ago, but winds have slowed and temperatures didn't get as hot today. There is supposed to be a cool down that starts Monday. Elaine, firefighters hope to get a better handle on this blaze when highs are in the 80s instead of close to 100.
Jamie Yukas, thanks.
So what do you guys think, man? Pretty intense stuff.
No, it is crazy.
But I haven't heard any loss of life yet.
Right.
So that's praise God, right?
Yes, that is.
Here's a time-lapse footage. You can talk if you want. I don't need the music. The fire's burning behind LA, and of course my evangelist in me wants to say, you know, the wrath of God on LA.
Well, let's read a couple of the comments then. Jason Harsel says, grew up in North Carolina. I've seen wildfires as a kid and was in Raleigh during Hurricane Fran, but also grew up with controlled burning too. Donna says, I was in a hurricane in Texas. The flooding was nothing compared to Harvey. However, we did lose everything we owned and we had to start over. I know what it's like to go through devastation. Otto, who was in Texas, said that dude needs sprinklers, not a towel. Very true. Let's see. Apple Mark wants vids. It says more, and glad you're back. I had to unban him. Unfortunately, he got caught in the friendly fire of the trolls last week. More media panic. This happened 1,000 years ago. Every summer, God knows what he's doing. Worth a look says only dumb people would think that it's Trump's fault for a hurricane. Redneck Survivalist says, used to be a volunteer firefighter. We had tons of controlled burns during a real fire. You don't want crowning or brush. Otto again says they're going to find a way to blame Trump. Gary says, burn, Hollywood, burn. The media focuses on fire because it looks great on TV. Muslims here have tried jihad by bushfire. Worth a look says, remember that film Burn, Hollywood, Burn? Yes. Sicilian Gal, she says, sometimes I think it's God's way of showing his disappointment in us. And that could definitely be true. Gonzalez says MSM is using climate change to blame Trump for the hurricanes.
I know.
Sugar Bear says, I just came in from looking at a blood moon in Pennsylvania. That's very interesting.
Oh, wow.
Let's see. Wildland firefighting is a young man's game. That's a lot of hard work, and I agree. I mean, that it's really grueling. We've all seen movies about that stuff. I mean, wasn't John Wayne in the big one?
Yeah.
What was that one called? Let's see. Britt Baza says, in the UK, we used to light fires on the fields on purpose. The reason being the ash creates excellent fertilizer for the following year's crop.
Absolutely. Actually, Kansas, I don't know where he's at. He grew up with controlled burns. They would burn the field for the cattle, and then the new growth springs up.
Right. So one of our moderators, Michael Thomas, is officially here. Welcome, my man. He is from California. He says, it's very hot here, but no deaths so far that I can actually see. He says he can see the fires.
Yeah!
Cray, my friend. That's, oh my gosh. Okay, so Apple Mark Once Vid says, it happens all the time. It burns and has burned for millennia. It was the same when I was in Yellowstone, Montana 25 years ago. God burns things so that it can grow again. And I agree. But it's like we were talking about earlier. Unfortunately, now the cities are there. And what are you going to do? I don't know. So, all right, I'm way behind on the comments. If you're going to go back.
No, we're good. I think we, pray for the, Franklin Graham had put up there, pray for all the firefighters, pray for the people, fire is so dangerous. Can't swim through a fire.
No.
You can possibly swim through a flood.
True.
Tidbit. How many of you have heard about the Burning Man Festival?
Huh?
The Burning Man. You may not. The Burning Man Festival is a time when all the kooks and cootie, how do you say cootie lovers, go crazy in the desert. And at the end of the day, they at the end of their weekend of sexual orgies and craziness, they burn this, man, it's a cult. It's a cult. It's a big,
Where?
It's like in the desert somewhere. Well, anyways, the point of it is that
satanic.
It is satanic, and it's funny that you don't. I know about these things, but you don't.
I don't look into that kind of crazy.
No, you don't. It's cool. It's fine.
I need to know that stuff.
And a guy, people. This is it. This is Black Rock City.
No, it totally looks satanic.
Of course it is. It's all satanic, and they go and they do all kinds of craziness. Well, their firefighters at the end, they burn this burning man. People are just stupid. And at the end, they burn this giant effigy, and
one person died this time. Mary Adams says one person died this time.
That's what I was getting to, actually. Yeah.
Oh, Mary stole your punchline.
No, it's cool. That's fine.
I did too.
No, it's this. They burn this dude, and people feel like the firefighters actually have to keep people from jumping into the flames because they feel that if it's a way of cleansing and rebirthing themselves. Well, one guy was probably high on LSD or something crazy, and
wow,
and he got in there past the firefighters, and he died.
Oh my gosh!
So
that's crazy.
So yeah, speaking of Burning Man, what I it was my joke of the day. I don't know. We're not very politically correct.
Mm-mm.
You can't swim through a fire. True. So if I had a choice between a flood and a fire, I'm going to choose flood because I can swim.
Okay,
so I can float.
Michael says Burning Man is in Black Rock Desert.
Yes.
Obviously in Nevada.
Yes, it's where all the cult people go, man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Speaking of cults now, we spent the afternoon, Michelle, doing bills and me making some chili in the kitchen, listening to a guy, I don't know if you know his name or not, off the top of your head. Do you want me to...
Michael... Dang it.
Anyways, talk about North Korea.
Yes.
And you want to give him a little bit of what you listen to.
Okay, so you guys can easily Google these videos, or I will try to put them in the description afterwards. I know we say that every time, just remind me. He was sitting down and watching, or speaking with Joe Rogan, and then another one he was sitting and talking with Milo Yiannopoulos.
Interestingly enough, he swore his pants off with Joe Rogan and didn't with Milo. So.
Yeah. But he had a lot of interesting things to say.
Malice.
Thank you. He has written a book. I don't know what it's called, but it's kind of a comedy. And the reason that he... that's the guy right there. The reason that he puts comedy in it is because he says that the plight of what's happening in North Korea, nobody knows it. He says it's nothing like what the media is feeding us. And he feels like nobody's going to...
It's called Dear Reader.
Nobody's going to swallow the pill or even do the research if he doesn't, kind of a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. So he really kind of makes it funny. Milo said laugh out loud. It was really
Dear Reader, the unauthorized autobiography of Kim Jong II, and
it's actually pronounced
Kim Jong-il, whatever. Sorry.
That's the father. So it actually takes us through the Young family a little bit, so that helps because there's brothers and then people killing each other. But the point that I want to make is he went into just how bad it is in North Korea. He said when you step off of the airplane, you feel first that you don't belong there, and you feel second that you have gone back in time, that it's just a different place. They don't have electricity at night, all right? And you don't say anything bad about anything ever. Because
don't you have like once a week you have to confess your faults or something?
Yeah, and and other people are supposed to point out your faults too. But you don't say anything bad ever because no matter what it's about. I don't even think you're allowed to say anything bad about America. I don't know. Because whatever it is that's negative is seen towards talking bad against the government. Mm. And so there's a lot of control, but one really interesting thing that he pointed out was we've all seen the missile test that goes 13 feet in the air and then fails. And they were, Joe Rogan was asking him, like, well, what do you think about that? I mean, they don't really have the power. And he said, no, they have power. But they don't have enough power. And the point that he was making is he said, I think that they did it on purpose. I think that they fired this missile because you have to understand, and this is the point that he was trying to make, you have to understand the North Korean culture. And in an American or westernized mindset, you're not going to get it. And it's kind of like the Klingon thing where pride is everything. And so it's better for them to say, well, we don't have the firepower to do it, than to have the cowardice of just not wanting to do it. Because it's almost like this superstitious type thing that's come. The Young family is there to protect themselves, not all of North Korea. They don't care about North Korea other than to possess it.
If something goes wrong, everybody's going down?
And everybody is going down with them. And I don't think, that's kind of like calling their bluff, right? They know that if they can't do the actual big, win whatever, that do they really want to go to? And so that's why they fire this missile that flops so that they can kind of say, well, we don't have the power to do it. It's not that we're not coward, that we're actually cowardly and that we wouldn't be willing to take out all of the, planet. They really can't take out the whole planet. That's the point. But I really thought that was kind of an interesting tidbit to get into the mindset.
They're playing a deeper chess game
than what's on the surface.
He also said he's trying to let Trump know he doesn't have the power.
Right.
Don't come after us, really, but they still have to save face for themselves.
Sure, exactly.
So,
but Michael was saying, because Milo asked him directly, he said, is it a threat? Or, should we be afraid that he could get trigger happy and do this? And he said, absolutely. Yes. He said, I am afraid that this is going to happen. But at the same time, you'll have to just watch the interview, but he goes into kind of some answers where he really believes, and he gives a ray of hope here, that through this, there is going to be a change, because he
really thinks that North Korea will change, not just in our lifetime, but very shortly.
Yeah, and it's a message of hope for the people in North Korea, even though they're not getting the message, because they have like 18 websites. Okay, they're not allowed to watch anything at all.
The police, you told me that the police might come in when they're watching, like,
if they have
Transformers or something,
and sit down and watch it, and then they confiscate the video. But if you're watching anti-Kim Jong-un propaganda, then you're going to go to one of the concentration camps. And they have concentration camps. And your entire family has a quota that has to be filled within these camps. And if you commit suicide, it doesn't matter, because your whole family still has to fill that quota. He was talking also about how there was, he had met a woman, and he was trying to explain a scorpion, and she didn't know what a scorpion was. He even drew her a picture. She had never heard of it. And that just goes to show you, they don't have scorpions in North Korea, so there's no reason for them to ever learn about it. Their knowledge base is so narrow. They don't even know what a scorpion is because it's not in North Korea. So the message of hope that he was giving is that, he said, you know what he said at the end? He said, listen, I don't care if they have the right to vote. I don't care if it's a complete, communist country, whatever. He said, I want them to have food. I want them to have passports. And I want them to have, like, electricity at night.
Get rid of the concentration camps.
And get rid of the camps. He said, anything else, we're not in there to make a democracy out of this country. He said, but, these are basic human rights. And I'm not, you guys know us. We don't believe in going to war or whatever, but
however, the one thing that we're missing, like, in all the world, when we talk about how bad the United States is and the government is, we have to be able to call a spade,
yep,
and say Gaddafi was a dictator.
Yeah.
Does it mean we should go overthrow him? No. Saddam Hussein was an evil guy. Okay? Does it mean we should overthrow him? Is Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi, or Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi, and Assad, and the Youngs all the same?
No.
No. And someone posted an article today in which they said, we're the bad guys, Korea is not the bad guys. And I want to say, whoa, whoa, whoa. You can have two bad guys. Doesn't mean that these bad guys should stop these bad guys.
Right.
But we can have two bad guys.
Yes.
Gaddafi was a bad guy. Should we have gone over there and shot him and destabilized the whole country and made it even worse? Mm-hmm. No. Saddam Hussein was a bad guy. But at least under Saddam Hussein, you could be a Christian.
Yep.
under Assad, Assad actually went to the churches on Easter. Okay, so I look at the freedom of Christians in predominantly Muslim or other regions like communism or things like that.
I want to insert something. Everybody's like, are they shooting another rocket? There was a test, I think, like 2 days ago?
Yesterday, the day before.
And there was a big explosion. It was, they said it was an earthquake. That's not the one that I'm actually specifically talking about. But yes, that one did happen, which is kind of what's prompted this entire thing that we're going to get into. But I wanted to clarify because somebody was asking. I'm talking about the video that we've all seen. Their little rocket goes 13 feet in the air and then it just kind of falls down.
Right. This one was created an earthquake, actually. And so my opinion, if it's worth anything, is that we do need to shame any government or any people that doesn't have the Judeo-Christian values. And when I say that you don't have to be Christian, but the Judeo-Christian values of love your neighbor as yourself, treat others as you would have them treat you. I mean, family is important. Mom, dad, kids, morals, things like that. These are the things that we want to encourage everywhere because we don't want to see suffering anywhere. There doesn't mean we can go and fix everything.
Right.
But each one of us has a calling to do something and to help someone. Okay? And so there's a lot of people who might focus on North Korea. There's a lot of people who might focus on different areas where there's not a lot of freedom. We focus here like a lot on America because we want Americans to not be slaves to the system anymore.
Right.
I just spent the last hour and a half researching communism and Karl Marxism and the Prussian education system more in depth than I have before. And I'd love to bring that to you guys soon. I might bring you a little couple pieces on that. I want to take you to Nikki Haley here in the UN. Why am I, do I agree with what she's saying? Absolutely not. But we need to know what they're saying.
Right.
This is more of a newsworthy clip that I'm bringing to you. Knowing that the UN Council is meeting together, something is up everybody's sleeve. I am so convinced the deep state has had it in
to have a war.
They need a war. Kim Jong-un is perfect to start a war. They would love to get Iran involved. They'd love to get Russia involved. They'd love to get Israel involved. They'd love for missiles to just fly.
We have taken an incremental approach, and despite the best of intentions, it has not worked. Members of this council will no doubt urge negotiations and a return to talks. But as I've just outlined, we have engaged in numerous direct and multilateral talks with the North Korean regime, and time after time, they have not worked. The time for half measures in the Security Council is over. The time has come to exhaust all of our diplomatic means before it's too late. We must now.
So what are these diplomatic means? I want to insert here because you guys might not know. The one thing that Donald Trump has on the table right now is, he says, cutting off all trade with those who trade with North Korea. There's about 8 countries that trade with North Korea. Only one of them actually trades, like we told you before, and that's China. And so cutting off trade with China is on the table to get China to
strong-arm.
Adopt the strongest possible measures. Kim Jong-un's action cannot be seen as defensive. He wants to be acknowledged as a nuclear power. But being a nuclear power is not about using those terrible weapons to threaten others. Nuclear powers understand their responsibilities. Kim Jong-un shows no such understanding. His abusive use of missiles and his nuclear threats show that he is begging for war. War is never something the United States wants. We don't want it now. But our country's patience is not unlimited.
So, you know, this, to me, that's a kind of a basket of half-truths and mistruths.
I want to insert a comment here because I really like it from Song Whisperer. Does Trump have the strategy skills to go up against a crazy person? It's hard to discern the difference between genius and insanity because most times they travel the same path.
That's absolutely true.
Which is really, it's a good point. It begs the question, does Trump have the strategy skills to deal with a crazy man? But here's the actual other wrench that gets thrown in there. He's not just dealing with crazy fat man. I'm sorry, everybody calls him that, and it's funny to me, lightens the mood. But he also has crazy people in his cabinet. He's got crazy people in his government. He's got crazy people in the deep state, in other countries. Dude's got to deal with crazy everywhere. And it's not just Kim Jong-un. They're all cray-cray. Yeah. And that's the question. Can he do it? I think only time will tell.
Right. So here's the thing, you guys. I would love for South Korea to take over North Korea. They could do without a loss of life. I would love to see a unified Korean peninsula under democracy. I mean, South Koreans have some of the most technological advances. They're, pretty much just, like a first world Western country. Freedom of religion, freedom.
Right.
So, I mean, I would love it. I hate the fact that, I go to bed tonight and there's a whole country of people who they don't have electricity, they don't have knowledge, they don't have access to books, they don't have access, and that's the big thing, they don't have access to knowledge, it's kept from them.
Yeah.
They are on a literal mental island, which is the most extreme totalitarian abuse that stems from the most extreme totalitarian philosophy, which is communism.
Right.
And China can't do much with North Korea because North Korea is their baby. It's their child. China loves communism. China loves Karl Marx. I was just telling Michelle that many of you may not know this, but Karl Marx is not Russian. He was German, and he wrote his Communist Manifesto actually in London, in exile from Prussia, in 1848. And Russia, and this is something that the Lord just kind of hit me yesterday when I was researching a little bit more on Karl Marx and things like that. Everything bad in the past 100 years has come from philosophers in Germany. The German philosophers have caused the deaths of untold millions and the suffering of millions. I know you guys love to say it's the Jews. It's not the Jews, guys. Seriously, if you want to look just at worldwide suffering in the past a little over 100 years, it's communism, Nazism, and fascism. And all of these stem, at least Nazism and communism, for real, because fascism, it was in Italy. But anyways, they came from Germany. But what you don't know is Germany was called Prussia at the time, and there was a man called Horace Mann in America, and he is called the father of American education. And guess where he got our compulsory model for education from?
Prussia.
The crazy men in Germany, Prussia, that actually created communism and Nazism.
Right.
And so you have this, and what happened is the Prussians actually revolted against their government. And so in order to stem any more revolts, they decided that they needed to take the next generation of children and train them all the same and keep them in a box and not allow them to have independent thought.
Which is what we have in our public schools.
So
system.
Horace Mann came over here, and other lawmakers came, or not here, but went over to Prussia, went over to Germany, and learned from these commie, neo-Nazi fathers of these movements, how to train people. Okay? And that is why we have our military industrial complex, because we have been trained. We are not taught at school to think for ourselves. What they taught people in Prussia were three things: reading, writing, and arithmetic, to make what? Good, low to mid-level workers.
Right.
And that's what communism needs. That's what the state needs under fascism and Nazism, is this duty to just your leaders, obey your leaders, obey your teachers. What are we taught? Obey. Do whatever your teachers say.
Never question.
And North Korea has a limited thought, box. Ours is bigger. We have the internet now, which is why you're seeing me and why I'm seeing you. Without the internet, we would still be in the same, you wouldn't know you were. You would still be on the same mouse wheel and hamster wheel, the same type of wheel as North Korea. Yep. With the same information. I'm convinced the CIA created television just to, you know, indoctrinate us. And so we have that's why we have a little bit more freedom. But when it comes to our military-industrial complex and things like that, we're taught as children basic things, reading, writing. Public education is not to educate children. It's to train them and to take them away from their parents. Okay, why am I going into all this? Because we have to recognize when we're talking about China
or North Korea,
we're talking about communism. And when we're talking about Russia, we're talking about post-communism. We're talking about post-communism with freedom of thought, freedom of religion, going back to the family.
Yeah,
right?
That's exactly what Putin is always doing.
Right. Because what happened under communism
is they separated the family unit. You break it down, and that's the best way. And it's complete military tactics. Okay,
but it's Marxism.
It's basic though. Marx. You have to pull and it's not just military. I mean, this is like basic primal, you know, hunting tactic to pull people off and take them off one by one. Because in a pack, you're stronger, and your pack is your family, and so that's why they go in to break it down. As a parent,
you're going to want what's best for your child, right? But the state doesn't want what's best for your child, right? Okay, and so we don't hear a lot about Friedrich Engels, but he helped write the notes that Karl Marx had put together on the family. And I found this incredibly interesting, and why I want to share it with you guys, because what we see here in America, when we're talking about gay marriage, we're talking about things like this, it's not about two gay people loving each other. Right. It's about breaking down the idea that children need a strong core. Right. You need a unit, a family unit, a mother and a father. That's why if you want to have a civil union for things like insurance or things like that, but we can't take away from the idea that marriage is instituted. And like, well, what if you don't have kids? And what if you don't, no, you don't understand. The idea is that children need a mother and a father to raise them. Right. And that is why we have marriage.
And I love that if you go back and read John Locke's 2 Treatises of Civil Government.
And that's what this is all about.
He talks about this, and he lays it out, even though it's old-fashioned and clean. He pretty much says that the desire between a man and a woman is set there because without it, you're not really going to want to come together
and stay together
and raise these children that take 18 years minimum.
These dirty creatures.
You know what I mean? And so that's why the marital bond is so strong. I'm sorry, it's not for y'all to just have fun. It is literally for children, and it's scriptural.
And they've done.
Why did I bring two together?
I was just reading some scientific research that there are certain oxytocin that is released that bind two people together, and the idea, I'm a Christian, is that God's like, listen, y'all cray-cray, you're not always going to be seeking me, you're not always going to be doing the right thing, so I'm going to actually, at a subliminal chemical level, bind two people together the best that I can. Yeah. The best that I can, because I know that even if you're kind of crazy people, or you're in some sort of, hedonistic society, or you're cannibals or whatever, that kids need a mom and a dad.
Right.
Okay? So, this is...
We just went to cannibalism.
Exactly. And why I brought this up is because I love this article from Breitbart, and I say this all the time. We don't need trade with China.
Right.
China has one of the worst human rights records on abuses. I just heard today they were trying to tear down a church, and the priests were beat up, and all the church members were there, and they heard other church members came, because you're not really supposed to be a Christian. You cannot believe in God if you're part of the Communist Party, and they highly suggest that they highly recommend that everyone is part of the Communist Party
in China.
So they tear down churches. We're working really hard to destroy religion, because religion gives people a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose. Mm-hmm. And so under communism, your sense of belonging and purpose is the state.
Right. So if you actually transfer that to something else, then your eyes, the shackles will be fallen off of your vision, and you'll see the communism and all that for what it is.
So one of the things that I loved about Trump when he was running, maybe this went over some of your heads, maybe you didn't understand, he kept talking about China, 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 China. And as a side note, I want China out of Hollywood. I'm tired of seeing.
It's in every single movie when we do have time to watch movies. Oh my gosh.
Super diverse now. Everything has to be. Somebody sent me a link. Why does Hollywood have to be super diverse? You're taking away from these stories, right?
Yep.
So we went and saw the new Star Wars, which was kind of cool. But they keep putting in these Chinese people as heroes.
Right.
Because China owns Hollywood, and Alex Jones was talking about this, and then we keep seeing like, oh, there's a Chinese girl for a love interest. I'm like, seriously, we're in America. It's cool every once in a while, but you want to identify with the people that you're watching, and so it's like this weird subliminal
But even
messaging.
if it wasn't, like, seriously, I could care less, because we do have Asian Americans in America, whatever, but the fact that it is so blatant, it is so overt.
It's purposeful. It doesn't
and
flow
that's what makes it
with
odd.
the story.
Right.
You know, they've done it with they did it in the new Independence Day.
Yep.
With the Chinese guy being the head guy and then his daughter being a love interest, and then they did it again
because they have literally bought Hollywood, right? Like, seriously,
so they're
they own
planting
it.
in all these different things. So, anyways, I want China out of America. I don't want Chinese goods here. I want America first. I want Americans to be making their things with their own hands. And if we have things to trade, if we have a surplus and they have a surplus, then we trade. Balanced. But I don't want American business going into China. I'm tired of it. I want people here. I want workers to be here.
Right.
You know? And so I if there's something good that could come out of this, I personally want sanctions on China. I know that that's not something that's very popular.
Right.
I know it would hurt for a little bit. But you know what? I want Schumer. We used to watch a guy. We used to take care of an older man who's from New York, and he ran U.S. Shoe here in Cincinnati. And he told me that they made impeccable shoes. They didn't fall apart. The glue always stayed.
And that was his job. His job was literally in adhesion, the adhesion department,
right?
Specifically.
Yeah.
So when you have these shoes and they fall apart, this goes way back when he was doing U.S. Shoe, which is a company I wasn't familiar with until we met him. But that was his job, to control quality control. But I think what you're getting at now is we don't have companies that produce quality products anymore. Everything comes from China.
Or other Asian areas with people making it's like a shoe that they sell here for $120 is sold with is made for probably under $2 by people making 60 cents maybe a day or an hour on slave labor, and and when you're doing that, you don't have somebody taking pride in their work.
Right.
You don't have somebody say, I worked on this. My company. Here's my company. We're in your country, or we're right next door.
Well, let's take Sears Craftsman for a minute.
Right.
It used to be that Sears had a quality promise behind their tools.
Right.
If our tool breaks, lifetime guarantee. Right. We will replace it.
And we have gotten many shovels that way.
Sears kind of went under, I think, because of that policy, because they thought that they could continue the policy, meanwhile degrading their product.
Right.
And you can't carry out that way. The only way that it functions is by having a quality product, and it lasts for generation after generation, and people will still buy your tools, and it actually does work if you do that, but you have to maintain the quality control.
So we're talking a lot to show you the implications of this one tweet behind my head. The United States is considering, in addition to other options, stopping all trade with any country doing business with North Korea. That's a one-liner, but it's a boatload of information and consequences, which we're trying to explain to you.
Right.
All the different aspects of this one little tweet.
And given the limitations of a tweet,
right?
It's amazing he was able to put all that in there. There's a lot hidden behind the curtain that he stuffed in
and he
there.
does a good job. China comprises 83% of North Korea's export market and buys 85% of its imports. No nation comes close to doing as much business with the communist Kim cult than China. So, do you understand where we're going with this? Many will argue that relative benefits and drawbacks of attempting to shut down trade between China and the United drawbacks. Critics will contend that the scale of America's business ties to China are so astronomical, $648.2 billion, according to the Office of the United States Trade Representative, that ending trade with China is impossible without devastating effect on economies. Discussions on how trade with China enables North Korea omit the fact that trade with China enables China, a nation that does not simply empower a human rights violator. It is one of the most egregious human rights violators in the world. China's Communist Party imposes strict limits on the expressive, religious, journalistic rights of its people, Strict population control laws force women who become pregnant to after having 2 children, and this is brand new, it used to be 1, to undergo forced abortions. They make people go through sterilizations. Dissidents have reported being used for medical experiments that bodies exhibit.
Oh, did you guys see that? It came through Cincinnati. How long ago was that?
They were all so Asian. Weird. They were used for experiments. These were prisoners used in this exhibit without their permission, mind you.
Right.
They are cut open and forced to sell their organs for the government's profit.
Oh my gosh.
Torture, disappearances, imprisoning peaceful advocates, destroying religious communities, internet censorship. President Yi has plenty to answer for on these subjects. Whether you're Buddhist or Christian or Muslim, citizens of breakaway regions like Tibet and Xinjiang have their religious practices strictly monitored. Christians, meanwhile, face arrest, torture, and beatings if they do not belong to the Three Self-Patriotic Church, the state-approved Christian institution. Many are arrested and tortured for starting house churches, underground assemblies, and it's actually gotten a little bit better. When we were kids, it was even worse. To study, they restrict people from studying the Bible without a government-approved clergyman, adding communist interpretations to their readings. The government has begun stripping churches of publicly visible crosses, bulldozing churches they can no longer control. And then there was a video that surfaced of the Chinese police officers beating priests as this church was being bulldozed. They actually stopped it for a time. They said it was because, you know, they were tearing down older buildings or something, but it had nothing to do with that. It was, they were just tearing down the church. So, Chinese people, man, nobody wants to live under communism, you guys. Nobody. So, this is kind of, when we're talking about North Korea, this is what I wanted to talk about with you guys.
So while we're still on the subject of China, this is something that
China.
Britt Baza had sent to me earlier, and I did get a chance to read the article. If you could go to your Facebook and see the message that I just forwarded to you. It's called The Silk Road Trains. Now, from what I understand, and I'm just going to have Leah read the article, but from what I understand is China is trying to, or they've done it, they're making railways to the Eurasian kind of country and area because they want to have trade just going straight away. But it's a very expensive project. It's costing a lot more than just like using boats, okay, and ships and stuff like that. But for some reason, they want their trains to be going everywhere, kind of like tentacles for trade throughout. So go ahead and read a little bit through this article.
A freight train filled with UK-made whiskey, vitamin, soft drinks, and other products set off for the first time yesterday.
And this was back in April, is when this article is from.
New Silk Road, reports China's state news agency. In 18 days, it was expected to arrive at the city of Yiwu in eastern China. The London-Yiwu line recreates the ancient Silk Road trade route that once connected Europe to China. This week's cargo will journey 7,500 miles through France, Belgium, and Germany. It will pass from a DB World locomotive to the Interrail and continue via Poland, Belarus, Russia, Kazakhstan before arriving, and it did, I guess, obviously on April 27th. So we're talking about the wool, the silk, the tea, you know, Marco,
the original
Polo.
Silk Road way back when, like for 2,000 years.
But you're saying, Michelle said that it costs too much.
It's not only that it's expensive, but it to me, it feels like that, like I said, with the tentacles going everywhere,
China
they are putting themselves...
is imperialistic.
Exactly. And I think the last kind of stand was to the UK, in which that's why this was a big deal. So... hang on, I'm supposed to go back and read a comment. It'll take me a minute to find it. But, let's see. Michelle and Leah, please look up the name Millie Fontana on YouTube. She was raised by a same-sex couple and talks about its dark side. I just saw it before you came on. Okay, so that goes back to...
Yeah, there's a lot. There are quite a few people our age who were the first to be raised by same-sex, usually women.
Right.
And they're not happy. They're like, why do I have two moms? I'm missing my dad.
They grow up and they become resentful, I think, about it. It's kind of like, if you were to grow up and then, find out that you were adopted, or, when the shackles fall off of your eyes and you're like, wait a minute, I missed out on, something that should have been a normal family unit. It's really unfortunate.
Did I say this already? That China has offered to build statues to Karl Marx in honor of Karl Marx in Germany, and that one town has already allowed a statue of Karl Marx to be erected, and the other town, I think, is agreeing to it.
It shouldn't be surprising that China's doing this, but it's surprising that any country would do it.
So the father of an ideology that has killed millions, is causing the suffering of millions today, right now, under Cuba, Venezuela, China, North Korea. Russia turned its back on this junk, okay? This, and so I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an idea of Karl Marx.
While you're getting to that, Britt Baza I forgot to mention this because we didn't go through the whole article, but it cost China $200 billion to build.
Doesn't matter.
It was
They
so
have tons
expensive.
Of
well,
dollars.
I don't know. My point is that it does matter, and the mattering is this. If it's so expensive, what's the point? There has to be a further motivation there than just, it's going to make it easier for us to trade with other countries.
Well, I think that they have so much United States debt that they have to keep spending the cash.
True.
And so they have to find ways to spend it,
right,
to turn it into something valuable,
right?
Because the cash, if you're inundated with so much something that is almost toilet paper, toilet paper. What do and you can turn it into some valuable asset? Why not do it? So that's what I'm saying.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I wanted to point out a couple main points and problems with Karl Marx, because I have heard some people espousing saying that it wasn't Karl Marx's problem. He had some good ideas. He was a wonderful philosopher.
Stop it.
Communism just hasn't been implemented right yet.
And we hear that from the left, I think, sometimes, when they're, not just the left, obviously, I don't want to call it the alt left, whatever. We hear that from them. It just hasn't been done right yet. Same with socialism.
So when you break down Karl Marx, who he was, and the manifesto, got all kind of issues. But a couple that I want to point out to you is that Karl Marx he wasn't just poor, he was purposefully poor. He never had a steady job or a bank account.
Wow.
So, this guy, who is supposed to be the worker's man, right? His manifesto is all about the workers. Every man according to their ability, every man according to their need. That's the thing, right? Well, he has a lot of ability. This particular biography says that he was a great philosopher, but not a good provider. 3 of his children died because he couldn't afford medicine, and the fourth child died before they could even name the child. He also, in the Communist Manifesto, point number 1 is to get rid of all inheritances. Okay, because he believed that you inherit this class structure. However, because he was a lazy person, which unfortunately I put Bernie Sanders in this pocket, because Bernie Sanders has never had a real job a day in his life. He went to school on his parents' dime, and he's been working for the government ever since.
Yeah.
Never had a real job. Okay? So these men who don't know how to work, who didn't work in a coal mine, they didn't dig in the soil.
Right.
I think Bernie Sanders tried construction, but he wasn't good at it because he's lazy. They talk so much. They think that they're awesome, and they come up with these ideas for everyone else to implement. Okay? One of his ideas of implementation was to socialize all housework, so that nobody has to really clean, but the government sends people to clean your house.
Right.
I mean, this is just insane. But the point, what I'm getting to with the inheritance is that he was always calling his mama and daddy for money, and the only way he got out of poverty, just obviously 4 children died of poverty, he got 2 inheritances.
But he wanted to get rid of the inheritance.
Right. But his whole Communist Manifesto was written because he got 2 inheritances, and with that, what did he do? Did he clean his own house? No, he hired 2 maids. So the man who wants to get rid of inheritances, that's what I'm trying to tell you. He is a charlatan. It's a scam. And it's worse than a scam. It's demonic. They hate God and they hate the family. And he hates the family so much that they together, Frederick Engels and Karl Marx came up with this idea of really destroying the family. Karl Marx wrote to his friend, half jesting, but I don't think it's funny. Blessed is he who has no family.
Who else does that sound like?
Margaret
Sanger.
Margaret Sanger. Exactly. These are all death cults, by the way. Their final semi-partnership was in 1884 book published by Engels a year after Marx's death titled The Origin of the Family. Engels in the preface makes clear that the book reflected Marx's views. Marx's notes were all throughout. It was his deal. Engels there stated that Marx had wanted to undertake this particularly important work and had produced extensive extracts up until his death, which Engels had reproduced in the book as far as possible. In fact, many of the ideas on the origin of the family can be found in the first joint work by Marx and Engels, The German Ideology. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Y'all are sending your kids to the same outline of schooling that came out of this German ideology. Remember, Hitler came out of this ideology.
Don't say y'all. I think a lot of our viewers either don't have children, like they're grown, or they do homeschool.
Or you sent them to school. You know what? Knowledge is power. I don't care if you send your kids to public school, as long as you know that it's the Prussian system and it's designed to brainwash your children, to brainwash us. We were half public schooled, half homeschooled.
We're like public school homeschool chimeras.
Exactly. Okay. And the fact that you're watching us right now shows that you're red pill. It's called being red pilled when you come out of the system.
Right.
So I wanted to give you a few points to this book. This fanatical push to abolish all right to inheritance, which of course, you work harder all your life and you're not going to be able to give it to whoever you want to end home and religious education, and that's where we got the end home and religious education. Our public education system is Marxism. It is communism. The idea of home and religious education was what our founders were educated on, and John Adams said, you will find, it's easier to find a shooting star than an illiterate person. And some of these schools, 86% of these kids can't even read, but they don't care because they're on the plantation. They can go to work, they can weld, they put them in trade schools. It doesn't matter that you are not a thinking individual, because if you're a thinking individual, then you might rise up as a revolutionary one day. And as Thomas Jefferson says, it's the right of every citizen when the government becomes tyrannical and corrupt.
It's not just the right, it's the right responsibility. Is exactly.
So he goes on to say, just a couple more points here. To dissolve monogamy in marriage. Obviously, this guy was a philanderer and a great pervert. All these commies are such perverts.
They are.
They are so perverted.
It's not just the commies, though. It's pretty much every movement that we see kind of in the corruption, whether it's Agenda 21 or the Globalists or New World Order and Pizzagate and all. They are all perverted. Why? Because what perversion is a shifting of what is natural. That's what perversion means. And so if you're going to shift from what is natural in one area, it only follows that that's going to happen in every other area.
And because Muslims are not monogamous, they're polygamous, I think this is one area where the commies are so aligned with the Muslims, they don't care about anything else. So they want to dissolve monogamy in marriage and pursue pre- and extramarital sex to foster and tolerate, as Engels puts it in his book, this is Karl Marxism, the gradual growth of unconstrained sexual intercourse by unmarried women. So you want your wife to be cool, but you want a lot of people on the side, right? And what do we have right now? Unrestrained craziness going on. It's from the ideology of communism, and it's because of the Prussian public school system.
Yeah.
That you don't value yourself.
Right.
You don't value marriage. You don't value monogamy. You don't value the family. Mm-hmm. And it all comes from Karl Marxism and communism, which was really brought over in around 1917. The German Jews came over starting the Frankfurt School here. The same time the Bolsheviks were creating their revolution in Russia. Okay, and the idea of telling people to just do whatever they want was it took a while, but you know, a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and people just, their frog was in boiling water.
Right.
They wanted to nationalize all housework, to shift mothers into factories, to move children into daycare nurseries. What does that sound like today? This is Karl Marxism. We are living in a partial communist society, a Marxism dream. Okay? We have a lot of moms and dads who are, I'm not going to do it, so you have mom.
Whatever you got to do.
Exactly. To separate children into community collectives, apart from their natural parents, and most of all for society and the state to rear and educate children. As Engels envisioned, the single family ceases to be the economic unit of society. Private housekeeping, they really, really hated to dust. Do you know that? Do you notice that? The commies hate to dust. Is transformed into a social industry, which we see all the time. In the mail, I get, this is a communist propaganda. I get a postcard that says, you've got a dad sitting down with his kid and says, life's too short to clean your own home.
I hate that stuff. I'm sorry, guys.
The care and education of children becomes a public affair, and we see that more and more and more. Society looks after all children alike, whether they are legitimate or not. The 10-point manifesto. Abolition of property and land and application of all rents of land to the public processes. A heavy progressive or graduated income tax. Abolition of all right of inheritance. Confiscation of all property of immigrants and rebels. Centralization of credit in the hands of the state. We have the Federal Reserve. The means of national bank. We have the Federal Reserve. With state capital and an exclusive monopoly. We have the Federal Reserve. Centralization of the means of communication and transport in the hands of the state. We now see that it's not necessarily in the hands of the state. We have Google, YouTube, censoring everyone.
Right.
Extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state. The bringing into cultivation of wastelands and the improvement of the soil generally in accordance with the common plan. And not happening, not doing very good. Equal obligation of all to work, except Karl Marx never worked a day in his life.
Right.
Gradual abolition of all the distinction between town and country by a more equitable distribution of the population over the country. But what you see happening is that when communism comes in, it's by force. You give up your stuff or you die, or you die too. And free education of all children in public schools. Free education.
We have
free education.
Thank you.
Because it's not free. It's putting people in a brainwashing box. And you guys are all red-pilled. You probably all know this.
But if they don't, do you have, excuse me, do you have anything from John Taylor Gatto that we can pull up where John Taylor Gatto was Teacher of the Year in the New York public school system, New York City, I think. And he kind of was red-pilled, and he saw, I think he was a teacher for a couple decades, and he saw firsthand what was happening to the shrinking of the spirit and the mind and the body of children in school. And when he came out, he decided to speak out against it. And he talks about how they're trained like Pavlov's dogs with the bell.
He said, the master creates the lessons. The pedagogue, the teacher, administers the lessons. But if you find the teacher creating the lessons or deviating from the direction those lessons are headed in, you get rid of it.
Did you know, many of you might not know this, all PhDs, we didn't have doctors. We didn't have doctorates. PhDs started in Germany, in Russia. And then what did these PhDs do? They came and infiltrated all of our colleges and did exactly what Gatto just said there. Created a system of education where a teacher cannot deviate.
Yeah.
But the people who gave us schooling weren't these wealthy people. They were utopian thinkers who believed the family and tradition were the greatest obstacles to making a perfect society.
The family and tradition were the greatest obstacles to creating a perfect society.
We had education, okay, before this. It wasn't until, I believe, 1862. So The Communist Manifesto was written in 1848 in Germany. Horace Mann goes over to Germany. Follow me, you guys, because around 1860s, 1862, Horace Mann brings it back to Massachusetts, in Boston. First public forced education,
right.
And then it spreads, and then it spreads, and more of these PhDs come over, and good for nothing PhDs, I might add. And they start going in all these colleges, and it goes after the Civil War. What you have is that it floods the South as well. And what we don't recognize is we had this idea, and we thought we need to educate everyone for free. But the model that it was based upon
was a communist model.
Was this communist model.
And when we say communist, it really it's not
Marxism.
enough. It's not enough to just say that, because you have to understand that they had this generational agenda to change an entire society, and that's why they implemented it through children. So it wasn't just to kind of change something and make it communist. Well, now we want everybody to be educated the same. No,
and people
they were using it as a figurehead, or a mast.
John Taylor Gatto, in my opinion, is one of the world's greatest heroes.
Rudder, that's what I wanted.
He is one of my heroes. He talks about, he says, I wasn't allowed to deviate from the New York public school system. I was killing children's creativity
and their minds.
Brain cells, their mind. When you have to raise your hand to go to the bathroom, I mean, this is not education. It's schooling. There's a difference.
And every utopia that survived invents schooling long before we had universal force schooling. There were always little neighborhood schools, and they all invent universal schooling of a homogeneous variety in order to reach utopia. Now let's shift to your
homogeneous, mix everything
question,
together,
which is Rockefeller and Carnegie and J.P. Morgan.
If you haven't seen our video on public education, we talk. It's titled like Rockefeller, Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, the Fords. They were the guys who wanted to usher in this. We already had a forced education, but they wanted to change it because it was actually Christian to begin with. It was all Christian morals, things like that, and they wanted to rewrite history, paint the founding fathers because they believed in liberty and freedom and justice for all. We can't have that if we want to control people. Rockefeller.
Earlier, Donna Terry commented and said they've gotten rid of history in the education. Like, literally, they don't really teach it anymore.
Well, Rockefeller said, I need a nation of workers.
Not thinkers.
Not thinkers. He was the guy who, as a Standard Oil man, he didn't treat everybody else he wanted to be treated. He was a ruthless cutthroat who literally sucked everyone else in the oil industry dry with very corrupt business practices, and he's burning in hell.
These people saw a different kind of utopia through solving the problem of production with high-speed machinery. They saw that material abundance could be created, and that want, first of all, of course, they thought they could become supremely wealthy, which they did. But secondarily, they weren't beasts. They sought that this material abundance, since they had abandoned a belief in a creator or an afterlife, this material abundance was the best that a human life could aim for.
And we see that now in America, right? The aim is to amass as much material wealth as we can. And so you need highly specialized people and machines to make this happen, which is also goes along with Marcusian's utopia, which is not having to work and using machines and
hang on before I press because I don't like to get too behind on the comments that I want to read.
I'll link to this.
So Mary Adams says, again, Horace Mann is a middle school here in San Diego. My boys went to it. I had so many issues with things. I'm just glad they are done with school and had me and their father as their parents. So that was the school.
John Dewey of the Dewey Decimal System worked hand in hand with Horace Mann. He's one of the implementations of this Prussian model, and they weren't shy about destroying individuality and destroying the family.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, but there was no internet at the time, so nobody could Google it and say, "Hey, what are you doing? What's your issues, man?"
Right. Exactly.
But I can move on. This is our Korea.
We should no. We have a lot of other things to cover today.
We really don't. These are.
We didn't get to the DACA yet.
Well, yeah. Okay. So tomorrow, Trump is supposedly going to pass the Hillary Clinton lobbies for DACA as Obama plans rebuke. Okay. So here's the thing. What Trump has done, and he's going to announce it tomorrow, is say, we're getting rid of DACA. You've got 6 months, Congress, to figure out what you want to do. I've seen a lot of videos on it. I've seen a lot of emotional people, a lot of American Mexicans saying, you know, we have to allow them to stay. If you didn't see our video last night, I don't think we really have time to go into all of the NAFTA trade deal things, but I just want you to know that NAFTA in 1993 promised to turn Mexico into a first world country and to raise the minimum wage for Mexicans and Americans and Canadians all across the lower to middle wage workers, and it has not. It has depressed wages. You've taken 1 in 4 Americans doesn't have a job, and we don't need more low-skilled workers in America who will come here, right, to do some of the hardest jobs, and they will undercut your teenagers and your young people in their 20s who would normally have these jobs, these roofing jobs, these hardworking jobs that Americans need. And these are Mexican men coming in here in their 30s and 40s doing a job that should be done by teenagers and young people.
And we talked about that last night,
entering the workforce, and they're more skilled. They're more qualified, and they are very hard workers, and they know how to scrimp and save. And Mexico wants to keep NAFTA because there are millions of these illegal immigrants here, and I'm going to call them illegal immigrants. There are millions here sending billions of dollars back into the Mexican economy, which actually goes not into the hands of the people, but into the hands of the drug cartel and into the hands of the elite. And while the Mexican wage is going down, and the average Mexican, their living standard has not been raised. The living standard of the elites, you've got Ford going down there, you've got other U.S. companies going down there to use cheaper Mexican labor. And the idea, and I read another article on this, which I wanted to punch somebody in the face, which I'm not a violent person, so I do it in my head, saying, well, why not? Because the Mexicans will be making even a little bit more than they are right now. The point is that the Mexicans live on corn. They live by corn, and it's healthy corn. It's good for you corn. It's corn that comes from the earth. I read about a woman who said that they pray over their corn. They commune with God as they plant it, and they believe God to raise it up. They don't use the chemicals. They don't use the sprays. They heal the land with the planting of this corn. No corn, no country. They use corn for trade. It
was a currency.
And they didn't live as a first world country, but they were happier than most first world country people. They were village people. They traded. They had families. There was the old women just sitting there making tortillas, right? Your grandma sits there and watches The View all day. Okay? So we ruined their economy. We put all the corn farmers out of business because with NAFTA, our government subsidized GMO, very unhealthy, one type of corn, just the one type. In Mexico, there's over like 200 varieties of corn. Each has a different purpose. Very healthy for people when done right, when grown right. Our corn is not healthy for people whatsoever. It's not healthy to go into the cows and to the pigs. And so we flooded their market. So for I want to say for $2 cheaper, you can buy 50 pounds worth of corn in Mexico that comes from America. Then you can grow it here.
You mean they can grow it there?
Well, they're here in Mexico.
You're not in Mexico, buddy.
So my point is that when we're talking about DACA, we're just talking about 800 kids who were brought here by their parents, okay? But we have to talk about the bigger issue, okay? We have to end NAFTA. We have to stop the subsidies of corn in America. We have to stop flooding of Mexico and allow Mexico to rebuild themselves how they want to live. When we say America first, we can't do that and say America first, put down Mexico, ruin them so that our people have corn and jobs and our farmers. No. If our farmers want to grow corn, they need to sell it to people here in America. And if other people want it at a decent wage and it doesn't ruin somebody else's economy, that's what tariffs are for. Each country has to have borders, okay? Not just America.
Economic borders.
Everybody needs to have economic borders, and their country has to be first. That's why countries are really important. That's why we say down with the EU, because Poland has issues, and Hungary has issues, and Britain has issues, and you guys need to locally come up with solutions to your own issues. Somebody in Poland isn't going to understand that no corn, no country in Mexico.
Right.
All right? And we need to destroy and rip up the papers of NAFTA and pray to God that we can fix it. And if we do, then we can send everybody back to Mexico and say, go, and you know what? Maybe with some reparations to go buy a farm and just start farming. You know us. I'm all about farming. I'm all about reparations for farms. People really going to grow farm, man. That's what I'm about.
So I want to open up this just for 1 second, because a lot of you guys were really excited about us bringing up the DACA. If you have any comments that you want to issue right now before we get to the comment sections at the end, while we're still on this topic, go ahead and leave them here.
Hillary hasn't said much, but she said, no time to waste. We've got to fight with everything we've got to defend DACA. Thanks to Jorge Almadrano News for sharing these powerful stories. And, of course, you always hear about these wonderful immigrants, but you don't really hear about, I'm sorry, you guys, but there's a lot of them who are DUIs, and they're not all great. They're not all great. From what I've heard from legal immigrants, they say the illegal ones are more likely to be the murderers and the rapists,
right,
and the killers. And that's just true, because if you're willing to do one thing illegal, then you have a propensity to do another thing illegal. It has nothing to do with race, because we're talking about legal versus illegal.
I was listening to an interview today with Dinesh D'Souza, and he's like, listen, when I was a kid, I just automatically understood that coming here to immigrate to the United States wasn't as easy as just crossing a border, because the question was about the wall. And he's like, why is it that in America, those that are so opposed to the wall, and like Lee and I have talked about it before, we don't think that the wall is exactly as necessary as everybody does. Look, I'm all for it. Trump did it, whatever, but it's not like my thing. But the point is, those that are really upset about the wall think that immigrating to America is as simple as, hey, here I am. You know what I mean? And it's not that simple. And he was saying, as somebody that did have to immigrate to America, I always understood that going into America required a lot more than just crossing a border.
And when you listen to these people, and you guys, I'm sorry I can't watch them again. The people who defend illegal immigrants, I can't handle the Don Lemons of this world, and the Mexican president and all these people who say, but what about the children? You have no heart.
Stop it. So, Apple Mark Once Vid says, DACA is a passive-aggressive manipulation geared to tug at our collective heartstrings to allow illegal immigrants to continue to violate the law.
And you guys, this goes back to communism again and again and again and again. Well, we told you this last night, and I'll tell you again. When I went to college in Oklahoma in the late 90s, early 2000s, there weren't Mexicans here.
Right.
Then I went down to Oklahoma, and there's a bunch of Mexicans there, people riding in car, 12 guys in the back of a car, 26 people in an apartment.
Yelling
5 years later, I come back,
window.
All the minimal jobs, landscaping, street sweeping at amusement parks, tree trimming, roofing, all these jobs are all staffed by
Mexicans. I don't even feel that old to be able to have such a massive transition happen within my lifetime, to be able to remember a time when I had friends working jobs that are now completely filled by Mexicans.
If I'm going to sum this up, and people need to understand that the Republican Party is against illegal immigration, because deep inside we know that this illegal immigration is about a lighter brown slave labor.
Exactly.
And the Democrats are for illegal immigration
and slave
because they have always been
labor,
the party of slavery.
There you go.
They will always be the party of slavery unless they meet Jesus, for real.
Yeah.
And what you have here, guys, you need to understand. They just changed the black people from being the slaves
to the Mexicans.
To the brown people, as Joel Salatin always talks about, and like in his book, Pigness of the Pig.
The Marvelous Pigness of Pig. Worth a read.
The Democrats want illegal immigration because they want slaves, and the Republicans don't want illegal immigration because we don't want slaves. When it comes down to it, I was reading, I follow a group on Facebook called Modern Farmer, and I don't really appreciate most of the stuff that they post because it's all pro-Monsanto, pro-illegal immigration, because what they're saying is these large farms can't find the workers, the white people, the Americans to do their tough picking.
Right.
Well, then you know what I say? I say scale down. They say, but then I'd lose my farm. Then people will starve. Nobody in America is ever going to starve. If your farms fail, guess who's going to rise up and finally make a living? Your local farmer like Michelle and I,
right,
who go out there and work for hours ourselves, and if we hired someone, we wouldn't hire a Mexican simply to pay them less than someone else.
Right.
If we had a friend who was a Mexican,
I would pay them what I would do. What I would do that job for.
Pay them exactly what I would do that job for. And if you cannot pay someone what you would do that job for, or what it's actually literally worth, then that job shouldn't exist. This is the good part of capitalism, in which the markets balance themselves out.
Right.
Where everybody wants to eat strawberries. And people will pay a premium for them.
Absolutely.
Everybody wants to eat grapes. People will pay a premium for them. We pay less on food than any nation in the world.
Right.
We believe that our food should be cheap and at the grocery store.
Right.
And that no one should get dirt under their nails, and everybody should have manicured nails and look great all the time.
Yeah.
That's why most of the time I come in a t-shirt and Michelle somehow can switch out and put on something nice. Because we work outside, because I don't believe in slavery. So I'm going to do as much work as I can so that somebody else is not my slave.
Right.
Okay? And so that, I know I said I'd sum it up, but that's it. DACA, illegal immigration, the Democrats, the party of the KKK, they want slave labor.
Right.
Because why? These people, get this, guys, come on. I get really excited about this because this blows my mind because it's so true. Whether it's Dannon or Yoplait or Breyers, ice cream, yogurt, they need strawberries too. Right?
Yeah.
They need cheap strawberries.
Yes, they do.
So these are large corporations making millions and billions of dollars. And all these little things, they need the little things, but they want them as cheap as they can. They want the corn as cheap as they can get it. They want the wheat as cheap as they can get it. They want the fruits and they want the vegetables as cheap as they can get it. Because what do? Jolly Green Giant takes it and puts it in a bag and they put it in a grocery store, and you have giant corporations.
Right.
Giant corporations who make their millions by the bottom line. And so where can employers cut costs the most? That's on labor.
Right.
Okay? So we always know people...
I want to get to the comments because there's like a million good ones here. All right, so Josh Conaway says you can't farm what you want, only the Monsanto seed stock, and if you don't use Monsanto's genetically engineered seed stock, then you get no government subsidies. 100% true.
Thank you.
Thank you for that one. Let's see. Britt Baza says in the EU they pay serious subsidies to not farm the land because we in the UK produced so much corn, milk, etc. that the EU had milk lakes, butter, and corn mountains in the 80s, meaning they had so much.
Dump it. And I heard that in order to keep the price up, they had to dump the food.
It's ridiculous.
That's the stupidest thing. I mean, so stupid.
So, Michael Thomas says here in California, it's illegal. Brits, Polish, Aussies, Canadians, etc., not just Mexican. That's really interesting. When we lived in California for a few months, we were definitely the minority, and it felt really weird. Credo says UK farm subsidies, biggest receivers, the Queen, Charles, and Prince Khalid Abdullah Al Saud. How many of these are out in the fields? LOL. Let's see. The Battle of Armageddon refers to the final war between human governments and God. These governments and their supporters oppose God even now by refusing to submit to his rulership. Very, very good point. Let's see. Crowder found out that illegal aliens demand $18 an hour tax-free with welfare and food stamps. That's really interesting. I didn't see Crowder say that.
And actually, yeah, so we did the numbers breakdown on illegal immigrants. Your strawberries don't cost $2.
Right.
They cost $2 plus the amount of welfare it costs to give food stamps to housing, to medical care to the illegal immigrants, which boggles my mind that I have to go to the post office box. To get to the post office box, I need 2 forms of education, identification.
You also need 2 forms of education, apparently.
But you can get all these government benefits.
Right, absolutely. Let's see. Gonzalez, yes, we did see the Mark Dice imitate Don Lemon and Anderson Cooper from CNN. We watched that today, actually.
We could end on that if you wanted to. It was funny. No? Was there swearing?
You never know with those people. I feel like there must have been swearing in it. Let me see. Immigrating to the USA legally is extremely difficult if you're Canadian or European. You're 100% right about that, and I think that that's really awful. But it can be done, and it can be done legally. There's only so much room in the United States. We can't just take everybody.
We're at the highest number of immigration than we've ever been. 1 million immigrants a year. 1 million. And if it was up to the Democrats, it would just be all... And you know what? It's not. It's actually not true. They've turned it into a political prop, because just 10 or 15 years ago, you had the Democrats saying we need to stop illegal immigration. Bill Clinton talked about it. So, I mean, and George Bush actually created NAFTA and agreed to it because they said it would stem illegal immigration. No, it just opened the floodgates.
Exactly. All right, sorry, I'm still trying to scroll. You guys, there must be a lot of people. How many people are watching right now? Because it must be a lot, because the comments just keep going. Or you guys are just very active in the comment section. Worth a look. Why would people who are being bombed by a country then move to the country that's bombing them? I must have missed a comment before that's referring to.
Very interesting if you're talking about Syria and things like that. It's funny how these people do want to come here if they don't like America so much.
Are you saying American companies are happy to promote illegal immigration to make money? I hope that was the sarcasm that was intended in that comment, because it sure felt like it. All right, I'm just going to scroll to the bottom because I'm getting way behind. All right, so I think, do we have anything else that we put in the thing that we said we were going to cover?
DACA, North Korea, and
106. Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, I had some random things. This was funny to me. I mean, I don't know how Poland's saying, fight fire with fire. You must pay us 1 trillion in reparations. It is I know hyperbole here, I'm sure. Germany should consider paying Poland as much as 1 trillion of World War II reparations, according to a Polish foreign minister. Poland's foreign minister Witold Wieckowski.
No, you can't read Polish names.
No, told local radio station RMF that serious talks were needed with Germany to find a way to deal with the fact that the German-Polish relations are overshadowed by the German aggression of 1939. Wow. He said Poland's material losses were about 1 trillion or higher. Polish Defense Minister, Antoni, whatever, I'm sorry, also accused European critics of trying to erase the fate of the Poles at German hands during the war from the historical memory of Europe. The country's right-wing government has dismissed a 1953 resolution by Poland's former communist government, which dropped any claim to reparations from Germany and are instead claiming that Germany is shirking from its moral responsibility. I feel like this is their way of hitting back. This is a new revelation to me. everybody says America's problem. America is a problem in the world, right?
Yes.
You know who's the real problem in Israel?
The devil?
Germany. Germany. And what's interesting is everybody wants to say it's the Jews. What did Germany do? Germany said that the Jews were a state within a state and that they had to destroy that state.
Right.
Of course, however, the Frankfurt school that came over here, the commies, they were Jews. But they weren't real Jews because they didn't believe in God. I mean, seriously. If you don't believe in God, how you can't be a Jew. My point is that when we, IG Farben was a company that created the gas that gassed the people in the concentration camps. The executives of IG Farben. Hitler didn't run the country, you guys, by himself. He had executives.
And backers.
It was a group of people. Those same people, they got, if they got any prison time, I'm trying to remember, we did a whole episode on it. It's really intense. You have to watch our episode on IG Farben. Those same people went and started the Bayer Corporation. And what else did they start, Michelle? The European Union.
Yes.
IG Farben. The Nazis. The European Union is the ideology of the Nazis. These people, this German, this Prussian mentality, from communism to Nazism to fascism to the controlling of people, Germany is at the center of it all from 1848 on. Okay? Germany has created monsters. And I'm not saying all Germans, you guys. But even today, Germany rules the EU. How many countries are in the EU? Somebody can spout it off. Who do you hear about the most?
Angela Merkel.
Who controls everything? Germany.
Yeah.
It's always Germany.
Right.
Because the European project
somebody said 13.
The European project was designed to take Hitler's dream of taking over Europe. They said, okay, we can't do it through war. We'll do it through peace.
Right.
But Germany rules Europe. Germany is in control. Why is the seat in Belgium and Brussels? Germany, the German mindset, Prussia, the old Prussia mindset, the ghosts of Prussia.
Bertha Look says 28 countries.
Okay.
I thought it was more than 13.
Yeah. So anyways,
all right, so is there anything else you need to cover here? No? All right, somebody wanted to know how the pigs are doing.
Pretty good.
They're doing really well. I can't pull them up on my phone because my phone's right here, but we have pictures. We've got 4 little ones. They'll be going to new homes hopefully soon, and they are doing fantastic. 27 soon, though. I like that.
So
this
is just interesting. I'm going to show you guys a video because it's always cool to see the Prussian school at work. And this high school teacher tells 2 students with Trump Make America Great shirts to leave her classroom because it's the same as having a swastika. She says, just like you cannot wear a swastika to school,
you can't wear anything supporting your president either.
You cannot wear Make America Great again like that. So please go. Please go. I don't care what you do in other classes, but not my class.
Wait, so both of them have to like flip their shirts inside out because it says Trump on the top. They gotta flip their shirts inside out.
Because you can't wear a shirt that has the president's name.
He's supported by me.
Because it's
okay. Okay.
She says because of the neo-Nazis, not because it says Trump, but because the neo-Nazis say Make America Great Again.
Because you can't just say, let's make America great again.
That is a high school math teacher in Woodstock, Georgia. A northern suburb of Atlanta.
Wow.
was captured on video recently ordering 2 of her students to cover the Make America Great Again slogan of President Trump or else leave her classroom.
Wow.
The Cherokee County School District has since apologized for the teachers' actions and said that all teachers would be reminded in a memo that they are not to express their political opinions to students in the classroom. So there you have it. This is the teacher right here, Lynn Orletsky. So
wow. That's in her name. She should have let them wear their shirts. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Common Sense Show has been reporting for weeks that UN troops are on the move to control various towns.
And we're going to go to Great Britain real quick for a little...
Going to Great Britain.
For a little headline. Report, hijabs for 5-year-olds are part of approved uniform at thousands of English middle schools. Children as young as 5 are being allowed to wear hijabs by potentially thousands of state primary schools. Alarming campaigners who say the Muslim headscarf sexualizes children. The rise of British primary schools including hijabs in the approved uniform lists, a garment which Muslims say preserves a woman's modesty, but is traditionally not worn until puberty. Was now children as young as 5. Not only that, but they're encouraged to wear it. You've got hijab girl and children's.
You'd have to understand the culture of the Muslims and how it is a sexualization almost.
Right.
What it says is you've now reached the age where you can be lusted at, if whatever you want to, you lusted after, and so you need to cover yourself. So why would a 5-year-old, need to wear the hijab to cover up that? It strips away their innocence and it sexualizes a child.
So this is the book where a 4-year-old is wearing this hijab.
Wow.
And I'm going to tell you guys, we have put these things on our heads. We have put them around our necks. We have put them on, and you can't breathe. It's hot, you guys.
We don't have a long enough.
No, we don't. To do this to children, to 4-year-olds, is child abuse.
Right.
Child abuse.
Do you want to put
this
it on
woman
your head
says, no. Miss Ali Khan says, why are you being modest? You're a child. They literally wear the headscarves because they feel like they have to be modest. And it's gross and it's wrong. And I am not... if there's a difference between something that you wear... Like when you go into a church and women wear scarves over their head. So, you take something to an extreme. That's why they're Muslim extremists.
Right.
Where when you see the women put on the hijab, they're not allowed to show a piece of their hair. But even Muslims in the past would just wear a scarf on their head.
Right.
Like just a scarf on your head, which is light or could be airy and you can take it off or something like that. But these hijab go around the neck. There's a thing, a band. It's intense. Yeah. It's intense and it's wrong. I mean, I look at these people. I think of the athletes. I think of the athletes wearing these hijabs and how hot it is and how retarded it is, and it's just retarded. Definitely ban the burqa because you have to be able to see people's faces.
Yeah.
And
it's crime. It's the same thing as wearing
It's just evil to walk through in all black with just seeing your eyes. It's evil.
Right. So, I did see your comment earlier, Sicilian girl, and I was waiting for the end, and I want to offer our condolences. She lost her brother last week, and she would like us to sing a song, and everyone has promised her throughout that we would sing a song. Lee and I were not going to sing a song today, but now I feel like we have to sing a song, because how can we deny you that? I am terribly, terribly sorry for your loss. I don't know what happened, but I can't imagine losing a sibling like that. That has to be absolutely heartbreaking. So, Father God, I just lift up Sicilian gal to you right now, and I just pray that you cover her and her family with a hedge of protection and comfort, and be with them as they mourn the loss of a dear family member, Father God, and heal the hole in their hearts, and hopefully one day they will get to see him again in heaven. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I'm so sorry. That's awful.
That's terrible.
That's terrible.
All right. In the garden. We can do that one.
I don't know the words to that one.
We'll just Google them.
I've come down to the garden.
I've come to the garden. Just put in the garden, and the lyrics will come up.
I don't know how it goes though.
I do. We're gonna look.
And
Just the
he
lyrics.
walks
No,
with
no,
me
we're gonna
and
sing it
talks
more. We're not gonna
with
sing
me.
it that way. I like it the way I sing it. It can be a very just do lyrics. It's really short. It's not long.
Okay, I'll let you sing it then.
You can sing with me. You'll remember. It was like last time you didn't think you knew the song and you know it, because you hear me singing it all the time.
Okay.
I come to the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. Let's see, where's the other one? I don't know where the other ones are, but the other ones that I like is he speaks, and the sound of his voice is so sweet. The birds hush their singing, and the melody that he played for me within my heart is ringing. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. All right, those are the two verses that I like a lot. That was a really good pick. Again, Cecilia and Gal, our hearts go out to you. I can't even imagine suffering a loss like that. Just absolutely cannot. So, may the circle be unbroken. Oh, I like that one. May the circle be unbroken, by and by, Lord, by and by. There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky.
You cannot sing that without an accent.
I'm sorry.
You have to bring out the accent.
Where's the lyrics?
May the circle
be unbroken, by and by, Lord, by and by. There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky.
Yellow country bluegrass.
Oh my goodness. We're crazy. We are definitely nuts.
Okay, so tell them again about the P.O. Box.
Okay, so if you missed the beginning, we have a post office box now. If you guys want to write us letters, we love doing the mail calls, where we can literally, it's one thing to send me emails. Sometimes those get lost. If I've got a bird in the hand, I can read it live. It's much easier for me to do that. And sometimes I will go back to the emails. We get dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of emails, and they get lost, and it's hard enough for me to reply to them, much less store them and file them away so that I can read them and stuff like that. So if you guys have letters or just comments that you really want us to cover,
it's really simple. Resistance Chicks,
P.O. Box 107, Milford, Ohio 45150. So we're switching from the UPS box to the USPS box. If you guys want to send us stuff, you can. That's not why we did the box. But the reason I had the UPS box is because I did it for Leah's birthday, and they can receive FedEx, UPS, and DHL. But the post office cannot. They can receive packages, but it has to be kind of like a domestic thing, like whatever your country's
like Royal Mail
post office is, whatever that equivalent is. You just can't use the bigger one. So don't try to send something that way.
Send it USPS or your local.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that covers everything.
So
thank you guys for being here. Subscribe. Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell for notifications.
Find us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter.
And
you'll get to know today's stories before they happen.
Leah tweets them out.
I was putting all my things in a Google Doc, but I decided, you know what? I'm just going to tweet everything out and then bring up my Twitter line, and then I can tell you guys what's going on. So if you want a sneak peek at what we're going to cover possibly that day, get ready to chat it out.
Yeah,
you can
do your research.
Super smart by following us on Twitter. Resistance Chicks without a K.
Yes,
because it wouldn't fit.
Yes,
with the K.
All right, so I want to take this time to thank. I always thank the moderators because they're fantastic. They know who they are. You guys were awesome tonight. We love you. But I want to thank you guys that participate in the comments. I know some people watch us up on like their big screen and they can't comment. We still love you anyway. We love the people that watch us afterwards. But those of you that are here in the comments section.
How fun is that?
I love reading the comments. It is always hopping. You guys always have amazing information. You help each other. It's a really fun chat.
What I'm really grateful for is, YouTube censoring us.
I agree.
Because what we started to do and what we wanted to do was to bring you the day's news.
In sections.
Who does that? The mom, Mike Riviera, that Mom watches.
Oh, you mean like the guy that has the new show in Hawaii?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like the shows where they just kind of go through what's the day's events
and
are.
We had started out doing that.
But we found that if we
broke up the segments,
the subjects, we got more views because we got put in lists and things like that.
Right.
But then when we got flagged as a right-wing political group, then if we broke it up,
then
it didn't matter.
The views were just like nothing. And now you guys have noticed, not only do you contribute to having like 1,000 vids or views to a video, but then after that, it'll get another 1,000 or 2 or 3
So this
views.
is what we wanted. We wanted to be able to come to you guys.
But it doesn't have our little intro and exit, and I'm not tech savvy enough to figure that out just yet.
Well, we are. You're working on it.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
You're working on it.
I do not enjoy tech stuff. So if anybody actually wants to help me figure this stuff out, send me an email, massfaith33@gmail.com.
Well, other people do. It's the YouTube Live program.
And it's difficult for me to figure it out. So
Maybe
if there's a more streamlined way of doing it, let me know. But I want to thank you guys for being a part of our show.
Wouldn't it be cool? We got to get Matt to sit right there. And he can have the computer, and we can say, Matt, drop in the such and such video like they do.
Well, no, but we could do that. See, if I had another laptop, then I could probably man it, especially if I had some lessons on how to do that. I know Big Family Homestead, they are really great at doing stuff like that. There's a lot of other channels and stuff that are good at that
sort of thing. But we're cool. We don't need to.
We have what we have. We like it. A lot of people have suggested green screen and all that, but
or putting our little face at the bottom.
Yeah,
like my
well, I could do that with a simple program, but then we'd need to get a webcam, and there's a lot more to, happen. You never know.
As the Lord leads.
That's what we always say.
We don't lean right.
We don't lean to the left. We lean on the Word of God, and my mom has always said. We ask her, Mom, are we going to do this? Can we do this? When we were kids, and she'd say, well, as the Lord leads. And it's very scriptural. Don't say tomorrow we shall do this or that, but say, as the Lord wills, we shall do this or that. Okay. All right, you guys, I'm going to sign off and say goodnight. We love you, and I don't know if we're going to go live again tomorrow. As the Lord leads.